Welcome back to the Torrid of Terror, Macabre Manor. I'm Toy, your mistress of mayhem. Man, am I glad you guys came back. The boss said if you didn't, I was gonna have to go up on the stretcher. I mean, I like a little tickle torture session as much as the next doll, but a girl can only stretch herself so thin. Well, there's no use crying over spilled blood. Speaking of which, buckle up and get ready for tonight's twisted tale of terror. It features a devious dame who likes to play a sinister game of switcheroo. It's called Stress Cracks.
What the hell are you doing? I heard him struggle against the leather straps holding him to the shiny silver table that I used to dissect my specimens. He shouldn't have woken up at all. I must have miscalculated his weight. What the hell are you doing? I leaned in smiling, mocking him. The ends of my long blonde curls brushed his cheeks, his head, and his lips. He spat at my hair, unable to brush it away. His hands and feet were bound to the table so tightly I could see the leather cutting into his skin. Shit, Monica, I thought this was a hookup! What the hell kind of freaky shit is this? He wailed and whined like a child, pleading, but with a measure of hope that I was into some kind of sick role play. Stop bawling, it's pathetic. I snapped and grabbed the anesthesia mask, forcing it over his mouth and nose. Now breathe like a good boy, and it will be over before you know it. He hyperventilated at first, then his breathing slowed, and his eyes rolled back toward his forehead. I closed his eyelids and reached for my glistening, freshly opened scalpel. I sat in Dr. O'Leary's waiting room, listening to the soothing sounds of whatever rainforest CD she had playing over her sound system. Soft echoes of birds and frogs chirped under rain falling through thick leaves. I hated them. I squirmed in the pink leather chair and it squeaked under my dark jeans. I rubbed at my arms, covered in goosebumps, because the office was always freezing. The clock on the wall began to tick louder and louder. 1 minute, then 2, passed by like lifetimes. I curled and stretched the fingers on my left hand, forgetting. A shock of searing pain radiated up my forearm, and I winced automatically. With my palm outstretched, I examined the white gauze bandages wrapped delicately around the base of my index and middle fingers. Like an apparition revealing itself, a pool of scarlet blood appeared on the fabric. I gazed at it as it grew larger, hoping I hadn't done any major damage. Monica, Dr. O'Leary said with a bright voice from the doorway. My head shot up with a forced smile plastered across my lips, and I curled the fingers on my bandaged hand to conceal the fresh blood. I hoisted my little leather satchel onto my shoulder and stood up. Hi, Dr. O'Leary, I mumbled as I walked through the door and down into the hallway to her office. Dr. O'Leary's office was painted a comforting shade of periwinkle, a therapist's calming tactic. She had an overstuffed slate gray couch and 2 matching chairs in a little sitting area, complemented by convenient end tables adorned with brightly colored boxes of Kleenex. In the back of her office was a vintage mahogany desk with an open laptop computer, over which hung several shelves of psychology books. I never tired of studying the various degrees that hung like trophies on the wall. How are you feeling today, Monica? She asked as she took her usual seat in one of the armchairs. The usual, I guess, I said as I sat with my arms folded across me on the couch. Still feeling a little lost then? I guess. I stared right through her, thinking about the warm sensation of the blood at the base of my fingers. Have you tried any of my recommendations? The local theater just had auditions. Did you go? Huh? Monica, are you with me today? She pressed. Did you audition for the local theater? Have you attempted to make any new friends? Go on a date, maybe? Yes. No. I didn't audition. I did have a date. It didn't work out. Well, I'm disappointed you didn't go to the audition. From what you told me, acting and theater were always a big part of what made you, you. But going on a date is a big step. Why didn't it work out? Well, he wasn't a very good match, I said, waving my hand in the air. What happened to your hand? Dr. O'Leary asked. Kitchen accident, I said, pulling my hand back. I can be such a klutz. I see. So, what else is going on? I don't know, Doctor. I just feel so restless. Since the accident, I feel like the whole world looks and sounds and feels different. I can't wrap my head around it, you know? Like if I could somehow switch out my eyes for new ones, my tongue for someone else's, my heart for one that was never damaged. Monica, everyone experiences loss. You nearly died in a car accident that wasn't your fault. You couldn't stop that man from drunk driving. You had no way to prevent what happened to you. You survived, though. We just need to get you living again. Living a brand new life, I murmured. I stood over the white porcelain sink in my bathroom. The cold black and white tile under my feet kept me grounded as I unraveled the gauze around my index and middle finger, and the searing pain shot through my left hand. The once blanched gauze was now crimson and heavy. I tossed it into the wastebasket. Tiny droplets of blood fell from my new fingers and landed with tiny splashes in the sink. I had torn the stitches. The flesh at the base of my fingers was stretched and splitting. Red muscle beneath it bulged as if it were attempting to escape. I sighed in frustration and opened the medicine cabinet above the sink where I kept my small medical kit. I sat it on the faucet and removed the suturing materials. Carefully, I cut through the already angry flesh and reattached the 2 new fingers I had harvested from Jake a few days ago. I smiled as I recalled how easily I had found a man with such dainty hands. Still, I needed to take care that these new fingers of mine took. I didn't want to have to hunt down another feminine-handed fellow. Freshly sutured and wrapped, I would be sure to be gentler with my hand until my fingers healed. I plopped down on my couch, cradling my phone in my right hand. I logged onto my Winker app to check out any potential matches. The thing about Winker was that no one on it was really looking for love, and everybody on it was looking to hook up. Married men used it to cheat on their wives with women or men. Men and women used it to explore their sexuality, and everyone used it to get laid when they were having a dry spell or when they just didn't feel like putting any real effort into an actual relationship. The script generally went something like this. Converse via chat for a period of time, exchange scandalous photos, arrange a time, hook up, and never speak again. Except, in my case, the script changed to harvest, bury the body, go on with your life. What I looked for wasn't a good personality or great looks. All I really cared about was whether or not the part I was harvesting could pass as my own. If my doctor couldn't fix me, I would fix myself. Replace the eyes I couldn't bear to look at the world through. Replace the fingers that had touched faces of everybody who hurt me. You get the idea. As I scrolled through my gallery of potential matches, I discarded the ones that didn't meet my requirements, zooming in and examining their eyes with a microscopic lens. Too green, too many golden flecks, too dull and gray. Then Lucas appeared. Brown hair, an innocent smile, perfect sky blue eyes with a few green sparkly flecks around the irises. I leaned my head from side to side and cracked the vertebrae in my neck. I stretched out my new index finger and pushed the hot pink connect button on my screen. I was in the kitchen working on using my new fingers to separate coffee filters, admiring how well my stitches were healing, when my phone emitted a high-pitched ding. I placed the filter in the machine, filled it with grounds, and pushed the brew button. Then I walked to the couch and propped my feet up on the coffee table while I checked my phone. Lucas. Hey, gorgeous. Can't wait to get our groove on tonight. Gross. Can't wait to finally meet you and look at those beautiful eyes of yours. Oh, you'll get to see a lot more than those. Sure you don't want to pick first? Let's keep it a surprise. Your place at 9? See you then, handsome. Men were always so easy. These guys would bend over backwards for a pretty girl in the promise of an easy hookup. I personally hated the song and dance process of getting them to my house, but it had to be done here. This was where my workroom was, where my tools were, where it was safest. My house was on a little dirt road in the country. My closest neighbors were 5 acres away. It was quiet, peaceful, and the deer in the back didn't ask questions. I stood in my bedroom admiring myself in the antique full-length mirror that stood on the floor. I had put on a tight black dress that hugged my curves, accentuated my petite waist, and gave the illusion that my bust was a whole lot larger than the universe had actually gifted me. My long hair hung in curls that transitioned from chestnut brown to honey blonde where it ended at my breasts. I wore only a hint of makeup except the lipstick that would match Lucas's dripping blood. Nude heels complemented my ensemble, forcing the perception that my already long legs were like the Empire State Building. I tilted my head and practiced a few dim-witted smiles in the mirror, giggling stupidly. Lucas would disarm himself immediately, and if he didn't, I had extra help. Just before 9 o'clock, my doorbell chimed, and I scurried to the front door, took a deep breath, plastered a grin across my face, and flung the door open. Lucas stood there in the dim light with a bouquet of daisies in his hand. He was a little taller than I had expected, slightly more muscular, too. His arms and chest pulled at the tight black t-shirt he was wearing, and his jeans hugged his thighs, telling me he definitely hit the gym regularly. "Lucas?" I said, grinning. "Hi, Monica. Wow. You look great. Way better than your picture." He was clearly a smooth one. I stepped to the side and waved my arm, motioning for him to come in. "It's great to finally meet you," I said. "I've really been looking forward to tonight." He stepped in and hugged me tight. I pulled back a little too quickly, which made him seem uncomfortable. I tried to recover. "Don't want to smash these," I said, taking the flowers from his hand. "They're so pretty." His sky blue eyes glittered in the light from my entranceway. It was so peculiar staring into them, like looking into a mirror. "Perfect," I breathed. "What?" "Sorry, I said perfect. The flowers are perfect. Let me go put them in water. Why don't you get comfortable on the couch? Do you want a drink?" "That would be great," he said, rubbing his neck. "I'd love a beer. I make a mean whiskey and Coke, fresh out of beer." "That'll work." I went to the kitchen and ran water into a circular vase for the daisies. I held them gingerly with my new working fingers, the stitches still in place, and cut with my good right hand. Then I made Lucas's drink. I always offered my male guests whiskey because its bitterness masked the taste of Rohypnol, and I used that to subdue them and transport them to the basement. The drug worked quickly, so once they were eagerly compliant, they were happy to follow me wherever I asked. Lucas was pretty big, so I threw in a little extra. I didn't want him waking up like Jake had. That seemed cruel. "One whiskey and Coke," I chimed as I walked around the couch and sat next to Lucas. "Hey, thanks, doll." He raised his glass for a toast. "To an adventurous evening?" He lifted an eyebrow. "To an adventurous evening." I clinked my wine glass. 15 minutes later, Lucas's head dangled from the back of my couch and his arms hung limp at his sides. I had clearly given him too much Rohypnol. He should have been awake but groggy. Now I had to figure out a way to transport his giant frame to my basement. I went to my hallway closet and dug out an old sheet I didn't mind parting with. It was pink paisley, kind of adding insult to injury to poor Lucas. Good thing he'd never have to see it. I laid it out on the living room floor and heaved and rolled his unconscious body onto it. Leaving my heels in the living room, bare feet makes for better traction, I pulled Lucas like an ox pulls a cart to my basement door. I opened it and studied the wooden staircase. I could have laid down some flat pieces of wood to build a makeshift ramp, but why eat up the time? My good friend Lucas wouldn't feel a quick tumble down a few or 10 steps. So I grabbed the end of the sheet, shimmied him to the edge, and stood to the side as he rolled like a log down the staircase. Once he was in the makeshift operating room, I just had to get him on the work table. That took a strong back on my part, but I got him positioned and strapped in. I placed the anesthesia mask I bought online over his face as a precautionary measure. When I harvest, it doesn't matter how I treat the donor, but I need to be sanitary for my own sake. After all, I am the recipient. I pulled on a pair of latex gloves and sanitized everything in the room, threw them out, replaced them, then retrieved a fresh set of tools for the procedure. With the utmost care, I scooped Lucas's eyes from the orbital bone and muscles holding it in place, leaving the optic nerve intact so that I could fuse it with my own. I held it like a fragile piece of ancient glass in my palm as the nerves dangled, dripping blood from my palm into the cavernous hole in Lucas's face. I placed the beautiful piece of him into a cooler to preserve it for my own operation. Increasing the amount of anesthesia Lucas sucked into his lungs would let him die slowly, painlessly. When his heart stopped, I rolled him into a wheelbarrow and took him out the back door and deep into my pasture. The moon was brilliant, an iridescent white globe that lit the countryside. I could see deer leap across the meadow as I trudged along. Near some high weeds, I had dug a makeshift grave ready to receive my donor. I dumped him in and filled the hole. "Thanks, Lucas. Sorry about the whole killing you thing. I'll take good care of it," I said in memorial. "Oh well, time for surgery." "I'm concerned that we haven't seen each other in 2 months," Dr. O'Leary half scolded. "I know," I said. "I've just been so busy." "With what? Journaling?" I lied. "Really, Monica? I went on another date. I've also been hiking a lot and gardening." "How did the date go?" "He was nice, but I don't think I'll see him again." I stifled a smile. Why not? He reminded me of my brother. You're an only child. If I had a brother, I mean. We're coming up on the 5-year anniversary of your accident. How do you feel about that? Dr. O'Leary asked, her pencil hovering over her legal pad. Oh, okay, I guess. I think I'm starting to see things from a new perspective. I blinked my eyes. The transplanted right one had taken wonderfully. It healed quickly, and I was left with only a mild blurriness as the optic nerve continued to fuse. Soon I would see the world differently, through the lens of someone who hadn't suffered as horrifically as I had. Do you think you're ready to forgive him? No, I grimaced. I'll never forgive him. My heart will never feel anything but hate for that awful man. He should have suffered the way I did, the way I still do. All right, Monica, I see we aren't there yet. If you never get there, that's okay. Someday forgiveness might set you free, though. Think about it when you're ready. She looked at her watch. I think we're good for today. Let's see you back in 2 weeks. My phone dinged later that night. It was unexpected. I hadn't attempted to match with anyone as my eye continued to heal. I checked my Winker app and saw a message from Todd Redding. Hey, sexy. I hesitated messaging you. You're way out of my league. But those eyes. Those eyes indeed. Okay. I'd play along. Haha, thanks. Yours aren't so bad yourself. What are you wearing? I shook my head and laughed under my breath. Oh, Todd, let's dance. I was sure he could donate something. September 26th, the 5-year anniversary of my near fatal accident. I prepared in my bedroom for my date with Todd Redding, who just happened to find me on Winker. He seemed like a pretty decent guy on paper. He volunteered at a no-kill animal shelter. He had 4 dogs of his own. He even distributed care packages to homeless people once a month. I was reluctant to harvest from someone that active in the community, honestly, but I decided Todd would be the last. The final piece of the puzzle, if you will. He arrived right on time, 9 o'clock, just like the others. He laughed and smiled as I winked at him with my right eye. I didn't do it intentionally. I was still trying to get the damn thing to cooperate, but I played it off and ushered him inside. Can I get you a drink? Just a soda would be great. I make a mean whiskey and Coke. I don't drink, he said, a little embarrassed. Weird. I hoped he had enough manners to not complain about a strange tasting Coke. I went into the kitchen and opened 2 glass bottles, dumping the Rohypnol into Todd's. Then I sat next to him on the couch. He took a sip and contorted his face. I smiled and quickly tried to distract him. Cheers to meeting new people. Cheers to that, he said and took another sip. I reached out and tipped the bottle back, forcing him to drink more. I got about half of the bottle in him before he put it down. So, what made you want to work with animals? I asked. I've always just really loved them, dogs especially, he said. They can really be your best friend when you've got no one else, you know? I was in the kitchen getting a bowl of tortilla chips and spicy salsa. Yeah, I'm allergic. That sucks, he said. I brought the chips and salsa in and sat them in front of him. Then I gave him a coy smile as if to say, here, eat. And he did. Between the salt and the heat, he drank the rest of the Coke. Within 30 minutes, he was feeling pretty good. I stood up and smiled at him, wiggling my finger in a come-hither motion. He stood up, leaned right, left, fell over, caught himself on the couch, straightened up, and started stumbling like Frankenstein after me. Come on, Toddy. I have a surprise for you down here, I cooed. In the basement? He slurred. Come on. He followed me down the stairs and gaped around the room with wide-eyed wonder like a kid in a candy store. He was delirious, confused, and suddenly found himself in the middle of an OR with a girl he met online. Lie down on this table, Todd. You look tired. Why? He asked suspiciously. It's a fun game I like to play. You want to have fun, don't you? Yes. He stumbled and hopped onto the table. I strapped his arms and legs down with the leather cuffs and made sure that they were totally secure. Todd wasn't going anywhere. What now? He asked. Now, Todd, I have a question for you. What's that? He giggled. Look at my face, Todd. Do I look familiar to you? Yes, you're Monica. Guess again, pumpkin, I said in a sickly sweet voice. Huh? Maybe I'd look more familiar if I was covered in blood. Would that help? If I was in a car bleeding to death? Maybe if I was on a stretcher. I was nose to nose with him now, breathing my hot breath into his eyes. Any of this ringing a bell, Todd? Holy shit, he breathed. Holy shit? Holy shit indeed! How about that? What a small world. You almost killed me, and then you tried to screw me. I didn't know. Now you do. I breathed deep inside, and I finally get to make you hurt like I did. Monica, I did my time for that, please. He pleaded through thick, sticky saliva and a tongue that wasn't working quite right. 3 years? The justice system is broken, Todd. I'm gonna fix it. I went to my cabinet and picked out an old, rusty scalpel that I kept with a collection of antique medical equipment I purchased at an estate sale. I held it in the bright white overhead light above the table where Todd attempted to fight fruitlessly. He wouldn't get the benefit of anesthesia. I couldn't be anesthetized for the rest of my life. He screamed and begged when he saw the red-orange rust that dulled the silver blade. It no longer shined for the deep tarnish that ate away at its body. He knew it wouldn't be pleasant. Probably grit your teeth for this, I whispered in Todd's ear. I walked around the stainless steel table and placed the blade in the center of Todd's chest, pressing it into his skin. He whimpered and cried, tears streaming down his reddened cheeks when the dull blade punctured his skin. When I drug it down, he screamed like a banshee. He passed out as I burrowed my ungloved hands deep inside his chest, blood streaming down his body, the table, and onto the floor. When I held his beating heart in my hands, I held redemption. My suffering was finally over.
Well, I guess that's one way to take the law into your own hands. Oh, Pooh. I don't think I thought this all the way through. How can you wreak havoc with only one hand? I know. Well, I'm all set, kiddies. Until next time, don't let anybody else mix your drinks. Or do. It might be fun.